There are few places in Portugal where the relationship between man and nature is as evident as it is on Faial. We just need to look around. On one side, the Atlantic stretches to the horizon. On the other, Mount Pico dominates the landscape as a constant presence. And between them lies an island which, despite its modest size, has played a far greater role than its geography would suggest. For centuries, ships from Europe, Africa, and the Americas found shelter in Horta Bay. Messages crossed the ocean via thousands of miles of undersea cables. Seaplanes stopped here when flying across the Atlantic was still an adventure. But Faial's history was not written solely by sailors and travelers. It was also written by fire. At the heart of the island lies a gigantic volcanic caldera, which is now a sanctuary for endemic flora and fauna. And in the 20th century, an eruption so dramatic that it altered the island's map served as a stark reminder to its inhabitants and to the world that this land continues to be born from the depths of the earth. This is the story of Faial, an island shaped by volcanism, the ocean, and humanity's ability to adapt to the forces of nature. Come and discover Portugal with us. Please like, subscribe, and leave your comment. Your support and opinions are very important to us. Thank you. The island of Faial is situated at the westernmost end of the central group of the Azores archipelago. Its shape is often described as resembling an irregular pentagon. It is separated from the island of Pico by a relatively narrow channel, just over 8 kilometers wide, and has an area of approximately 172 square kilometers. Also known as the Blue Island, due to the profusion of hydrangeas that paint the landscape with splashes of that color, it stretches from east to west and has its highest points at Cabeço Gordo, on the southern edge of the caldera, at an altitude of around 1043 meters. Like all the islands of the Azores, Faial is of volcanic origin. Its formation is linked to the complex tectonics of the North Atlantic, in an area where structures associated with the Eurasian, African, and North American plates interact. The island developed in different phases. The oldest part corresponds to the northeastern sector, associated with the Ribeirinha volcanic complex. Later, other sectors of the island formed, leading to the creation of the large central volcano, within which the present-day caldera opened up. The landscape of Faial should be understood as the result of various eruptive episodes, collapses, fractures, and erosion processes. It is a relatively young volcanic edifice where the shape of the relief helps to tell the very geological history of the territory. The center of the island is dominated by the caldera, Faial's most imposing geological feature. It is about 2 kilometers in diameter and approximately 400 meters deep. It forms an almost circular crater at the top of the island's central volcano. Its rim reaches great heights, with Cabeço Gordo being the highest point on Faial. The formation of the caldera is associated with explosive eruptions and the collapse of the upper part of the central volcano, which occurred around 1,000 years ago. The current landscape is the result of various geological processes, including the accumulation of pyroclastic materials, landslides, erosion, and the gradual recovery of vegetation. The interior of the caldera is one of the most important sites on Faial for the conservation of natural vegetation. Here, communities of humid laurel forest are found, comprising species native and endemic to the Azores. The presence of this vegetation is particularly significant because much of the island's original vegetation cover has been altered since settlement due to agriculture, livestock farming, logging, and the introduction of exotic species. The caldera therefore offers a landscape that is closer to what some natural Azorean environments would have been like before human transformation. Among the most characteristic species are the Azores cedar, laurel, Azores buckthorn, mountain grape, and other plants associated with high-altitude humid habitats. The fauna is dominated mainly by birds. The Azores chaffinch, the goldcrest, the saffron finch, the Azorean blackbird, and the buzzard are among the bird species that can be observed in the surrounding area. The caldera is part of the Azores network of protected areas and is one of the main features of the Faial Natural Park. The trail around the perimeter allows visitors to walk along the rim, offering successive vantage points over the interior of the crater and the island. Descending into the crater is possible but restricted and must be done with an authorized guide precisely to protect a sensitive ecosystem. The caldera is also significant in recent volcanic history. During the Capelinhos eruption in May 1958, fumarolic activity was recorded inside the caldera, indicating that the island's volcanic system was then affected by a wider-scale crisis. To the west, the volcanic alignment of the Capelo Peninsula bears witness to this more recent activity, marked by cones, lava flows, and in the 20th century by the emergence of the Capelinhos volcano. The eruption began on 27 September 1957 at sea near Ponta dos Capelinhos. Initially, it was an underwater eruption. The water began to bubble, columns of steam and ash rose, and the phenomenon quickly gained intensity. The eruption lasted until 24 October 1958 for around 13 months. Throughout this period, activity varied between submarine, explosive, and subaerial phases. Ash, pumice, volcanic bombs, and lava flows were emitted. In the early stages, a new, unstable island formed which suffered from erosion and subsidence. Later, the eruptive materials eventually connected this new formation to the island of Faial, temporarily increasing its area. The surrounding landscape was profoundly transformed. Farmland, pastures, houses and paths were covered in ash. The parishes of Capelo and Praia do Norte were particularly affected. Many families lost their livelihoods and homes. Although there were no fatalities directly caused by the eruption, the social impact was enormous. One of the most lasting effects was emigration. In the wake of the disaster, the United States passed special legislation facilitating the entry of Azoreans affected by the eruption. Many people from Faial emigrated to North America, particularly to areas where Azorean communities already existed, such as Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Thus, the Capelinhos eruption did not merely alter the island's geography, it also altered the demographics, the economy, and the family history of many communities. The Capelinhos lighthouse, built in the early 20th century, was partially buried by ash. Today, the site of the lighthouse emerging from a grey volcanic landscape has become one of Faial's most striking symbols. The structure no longer functions as a lighthouse, but forms part of the Capelinhos Volcano Interpretation Center. This center, opened in 2008, was built partially underground, respecting the surrounding landscape. The exhibition helps visitors understand the eruption, volcanism in the Azores, the formation of the islands, and the human impact of the events of 1957 and 1958. Capelinhos is also significant from a scientific perspective. The eruption was observed, photographed, filmed, and studied under exceptional conditions for the time. Today, the landscape of Capelinhos continues to change. The recent volcanic materials are poorly consolidated and are subject to erosion by wind and sea. The land formed during the eruption has already been partly eroded. What we see today is therefore a young, unstable landscape in a state of constant change. Visiting Capelinhos is like observing a land that is almost newly born. Few places in Europe allow one to understand so directly how a volcanic island is formed. Human presence on Faial began in the 15th century, in the context of the discovery and settlement of the Azores. Even before stable populations settled there, the island was already depicted in medieval and Renaissance maps under various names. In the will of Prince Henry the Navigator in 1460, it is referred to as the island of St. Louis. The current name, Faial, is associated with the abundance of beech trees, a plant species that form the island's natural vegetation. The actual settlement is linked to a central figure, Joost van Hurtere, a nobleman of Flemish origin. According to historical tradition, he arrived on Faial in the mid-1460s, initially with hopes of finding precious metals. The discovery of such riches did not materialize, but the settlement project went ahead. In 1468, Joost van Hurtere was granted the captaincy of Faial. A few years later, the settlement was consolidated with the arrival of new settlers, including Flemings and Portuguese, mainly from the north of the kingdom. Agriculture became the basis of the early economy. Cereals were produced, livestock was reared, and woad was cultivated, a plant used to obtain blue dye, highly prized in Europe before the expansion of other sources of dye. The town of Horta began to take shape beside a sheltered bay in a location favorable for navigation. The town grew up around the port, the church, the local administration, and the agricultural and commercial activities that sustained the population. In 1498, the settlement of Horta was granted town status by King Manuel I. This status demonstrates that within a few decades, the urban center had already gained sufficient importance to establish itself as the island's administrative and economic hub. Its growth is explained first and foremost by the bay. Horta's natural harbor offered shelter in a region of the Atlantic where safe ports of call were essential for navigation. Over time, this feature transformed the town into a transit point between continents. The bay facilitated the development of trade, fishing, ship repair, and constant maritime relations. Horta became a gateway, a place where the rhythm of the city was defined by the maritime stopovers. Even today, walking through this port, the artistic marks left by the passage of ships from the four corners of the world are clearly visible, a reminder of all those who found a place of refuge here on long and demanding voyages. From the 16th century onwards, the need for defense led to the construction of fortifications. The fort of Santa Cruz, next to the port, is one of the most important structures in this defensive system. Its function was to protect the bay and the town against attacks from the sea, at a time when Atlantic navigation was also marked by war, privateering, and competition between European powers. Horta grew to include churches, convents, administrative buildings and houses linked to the local elites. Its historic center still retains this layout: streets leading towards the harbor, large-scale religious buildings, and spaces that bear witness to the town's importance within the island. During the 16th and 17th centuries, Faial played a part in the Portuguese Atlantic economy. Its position was strategic. The very ocean that isolated the island from the mainland would eventually transform it into a waypoint for sailors, merchants, and travelers crossing the Atlantic. This role created prosperity, but also risks. The Azores Islands, situated on routes frequented by merchant ships, became vulnerable to attacks by privateers and pirates. A reminder of these raids is clearly visible in one of Horta's most iconic monuments, the Clock Tower. Today it stands alone next to a garden, but it was originally part of the old Horta Parish Church, then one of the town's most important religious buildings. The first parish church was built in the early days of settlement and was completed at the beginning of the 16th century. Its history took an abrupt turn in 1597. That year, a powerful English fleet attacked Horta during the wars between England and the Spanish monarchy, a period when Portugal was under the rule of the Habsburgs. The English forces, part of the expedition led by the Earl of Essex and in which Sir Walter Raleigh took part, landed on the island and sacked the town. Churches, convents, and public buildings were set alight, including the old parish church. The destruction was profound and left its mark on life in Horta for decades. Reconstruction of the church began a few years later, taking place between 1607 and 1615. However, over the following centuries, the building suffered successive damage caused by the frequent earthquakes that affected the island. By the early 19th century, the state of the building was so precarious that it was decided to abandon the old parish church for good. In 1825, the parish functions were transferred to the Church of the Most Holy Saviour, the former church of the Jesuit College, which has since become the town's main church. The current clock tower, built in the 18th century and fitted with a clock mechanism acquired in England, remained standing even after the church was demolished. When we look today at the tower, standing alone in the city centre, we are faced with a rare physical reminder of Horta as it was before the great earthquakes of the 19th century and the subsequent profound urban transformations. The parish church found a new home in the church of the former Jesuit College of Horta and is one of the island's most important religious buildings. Construction of this church began in the 17th century against the backdrop of the Jesuits' growing presence in the Azores. Following the expulsion of the Society of Jesus in 1759, the building took on new uses and functions, eventually becoming Horta's new parish church. The building is significant not only for its size but also for its artistic treasures: wood carvings, tiles, sacristy items, liturgical vestments, and elements associated with Azorean religious art. Set within the town centre, the complex comprising the former college and the church helps to illustrate the importance of religious orders in the cultural and social organization of the town. It is within these premises that the Horta Museum is located, a must-visit for anyone wishing to understand Faial. The museum was established in 1977 and its collection brings together items related to local history, art, ethnography and daily life on the island. Among the best-known items are the figwood carvings by Euclides Rose, a Faial-born artist who developed a meticulous and unique technique, creating small figures and compositions from the inner wood of the fig tree. The museum also provides a framework for key themes in the island's history: religious presence, urban organization, maritime activities, and communications. Alongside this religious dimension, Horta has also developed a strong scientific and technological vocation. In the 19th century, the installation of submarine telegraph cables transformed the city into a strategic hub for international communications. From 1893 onwards, Horta became part of the global submarine cable communications network. These cables linked continents across the Atlantic seabed and enabled the rapid transmission of messages between Europe and America. For a small town on an island in the middle of the ocean, this role had profound consequences. Foreign technicians, international companies, and telecommunications-related communities arrived. The presence of British, German, and other nationalities contributed to the city's cosmopolitan atmosphere. For decades, Horta became one of the places where the technical globalization of the 19th century became visible in the heart of the Atlantic. The newspaper O Telégrafo, The Telegraph, founded in 1893, reflects this transformation. The newspaper's name is directly linked to the installation of the submarine cable and the new centrality of communications in the life of the city. In the 20th century, Horta would once again assume Atlantic importance through aviation. The era of seaplanes made the bay and the port key hubs for transatlantic connections. In 1919, the North Atlantic crossing by the American seaplane NC-4 included a stopover in Horta, a pioneering moment in the history of aviation. Later, airlines such as Pan American used the Azores as part of their routes. Faial, which had already been an island of seafarers and submarine cables, also became an air stopover at a time when crossing the Atlantic was still a technical and logistical adventure. To the south of Horta rises Monte da Guia, one of the city's most striking natural and scenic landmarks. It is a volcanic formation situated at the entrance to Portupim Bay. Its relief protects the cove and creates one of the city's most characteristic views. From the top, one can see Horta Bay, Portupim, the Channel, and Mount Pico. In the Monte da Guia area lie the so-called Caldeirinhas, two volcanic craters connected to the sea. The name Caldeira do Inferno, Hell's Caldera, is also used locally to refer to these formations or rugged areas associated with the volcanic and coastal terrain. Monte da Guia is also of ecological relevance. The area includes protected areas that are important for seabirds and coastal habitats. Monte da Guia and Monte Queimado, on the southern side of the city of Horta, protect the bay where Portupim is situated. This location has a particularly favorable geographical configuration. The cove is sheltered and the beach has a direct connection to the town and the sea. Portupim is thought to have been important from the earliest days of settlement, due to the ease of landing and the natural protection it offered. Over the centuries, this area of Horta was linked to fishing and later to whaling. Whale hunting, particularly the capture of sperm whales, was a very important economic and cultural activity on several islands of the Azores, particularly between the 19th and 20th centuries. On Faial, Portupim became one of the places associated with this history. The old whaling factory, now part of heritage and environmental interpretation tours, recalls an activity that left a deep mark on the Azorean coastal communities. Azorean whaling had its own distinctive characteristics. It employed whaling boats, lookouts on land, and techniques that combine maritime knowledge, physical endurance, and constant risk. Lookouts would spot the spout of the sperm whale from high vantage points. Then, the boats would be launched into the sea. For decades, the whale was a source of oil, meal, and other products. It was also a central element of a maritime culture marked by hard work, danger, and a very direct relationship with the ocean. Today, whaling is a thing of the past. Our relationship with the cetaceans has changed radically. Whale and dolphin watching has replaced hunting, and the former industrial sites and memorials offer insights into this shift. Portopim therefore represents an important transition in the history of Faial, from an extractive economy linked to hunting to a contemporary relationship centered on conservation, science, and nature tourism. On the other side of the town, Ponta da Espalhamarca offers a different view of Horta. Situated to the north, it provides a view of the town, the marina, the bay, and the channel, with Pico in the background. It's one of the best vantage points for understanding the relationship between Faial and its neighboring island. The outline of Pico is ever present on Faial. From Espalhamarca, one can see how the channel is both a separation and a connection. Between the two islands circulate people, boats, trade, family memories, and historical ties. The viewpoint has become one of the most popular spots for photographing the city and Pico, but its greatest significance lies in its ability to reveal Faial's relational geography, an island that is best understood when viewed in conjunction with the channel and Pico. The Blue Island is also renowned for its gardens. Next to the clock tower in Horta lies the Florencio Terra Garden. It occupies part of the land that belonged to the former convent of St. John, which disappeared following the abolition of religious orders in 1834. The site was laid out as a public garden in the mid-19th century and was opened in 1857. The current name pays tribute to Florencio Terra, one of the most prominent figures in Faial's intellectual life between the 19th and early 20th centuries. The garden still retains the romantic character of 19th century public spaces. Amidst centuries-old trees, winding paths, and landscaped areas, a historic bandstand stands out. Outside the town centre, at Quinta de São Lourenço in Flamengos, the Faial Botanical Garden was established in 1986. It forms part of the Faial Natural Park and serves scientific, educational and conservation purposes. The garden occupies a former agricultural area with pastures and orchards, transformed into a space dedicated to the flora of the Azores and Macaronesia. Its main mission is to conserve endemic and native species, raise public awareness of Azorean biodiversity, and support work on propagation and habitat restoration. The site includes collections of living plants, sections of medicinal and aromatic plants, traditional agricultural crops, and areas where exotic species are also displayed. This aspect is important because invasive species constitute one of the greatest threats to the native flora of the Azores. The garden also features an orchid house linked to the collection of Henrique Peixoto and a second area in Pedro Miguel dedicated to the restoration of humid and superhumid laurel habitats. In the context of an island such as Faial, where the landscape has been transformed by agriculture, the introduction of exotic plants and natural phenomena, the botanical garden represents an attempt to preserve and reconstruct part of the Azorean ecological memory. Faial is an island where the scale of the territory contrasts with the scope of its history. In just over 170 square kilometers, some of the major themes of Azorean and Atlantic history are concentrated. 15th century settlement, Flemish influence, island agriculture, coastal defense, ocean navigation, whaling, global communications, transatlantic aviation, emigration, and active volcanism. Horta reveals the island as a place of passage and contact with the world. Caldera and Caplinhos explain the geological origins of the territory and show that the violent events of the island's formation do not belong solely to a distant past. Fayal may seem unassuming when compared to the monumental presence of Pico Mountain, always visible across the channel, but this humble nature is deceptive. The island has been a port, a stopover, a shelter, a communications hub, and a point of departure for thousands of emigrants. Viewed closely, its history contains one of the most complete expressions of the Azorean experience, living between land and sea, between the apparent stability of the landscape and the awareness that everything on these islands was shaped by forces in motion. Thank you for discovering Portugal with us. If you liked the video, please click on the like button and subscribe to the channel to follow our new releases.